Here we are now.
All good?
Yep.
Cool. Well, Harrison, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, before we get to this incredible journey that you've been through, as Fell Foodie, what do you do currently?
So the Fell Foodie side of things, it's basically me just taking my passion for cooking out into the hills. So I can often be found up there, sort of, I guess, creating restaurant-style dishes on minimal equipment up in remote locations. So with the mountains we've got here on our doorstep, what better place to go up and have my dinner some nights, I think. Just fantastic views below. So yeah.
do people hire you to go with them then?
It's just sort of hobby-based at the minute, really. I do get the offers to sort of be hired and stuff, but I'm not a mountain leader, so I haven't got the insurance to take groups out. And also there's the idea, I suppose, of health and hygiene's a bit of a stickler,
right.
I suppose. I'm not carrying a fridge up there. I'm not carrying all my hot water for the sink and whatnot. So generally it's just me, but I do some workshops and demonstrations out there as well for various brands and things. But currently it's just me enjoying dinner in the back garden.
So what sort of food are you cooking up there?
Absolutely, anything I'll give a go. I think I'm all about trying to basically recreate things we would do down in our kitchens up in the outdoors. I think initially, cooking sort of developed from the outdoors, initially over fire, cooking in the caves and whatnot sort of thing, gradually produced more onto sort of clay ovens and stoves. So for me, it's taking these more refined dishes we've got now back into their sort of primal roots and trying to recreate those back in the outdoors. So I've done all sorts of things, I guess, even from I bake loaves of bread from scratch and cakes. I've done risottos. I'll do sort of nice pasta dishes I'll cook up there.
So I was watching that yesterday. I was going through some of your videos. I was like, wow, that looks nice. That looks nice. Like, I'm hungry now.
There we go. I know there's a couple of people often say they watch it in bed and they're always regretting it, I think. But I suppose it's a good compliment for me.
But
so
it's also the idea of, like, I saw it and I was like, why didn't someone think of this before? Like, is there anyone else doing it that you know of?
Not in this area, no. There's certainly a lot of outdoor cooks, people who do sort of lowland, maybe sort of on the coastal side of in the woods, but not in the mountains. No,
because when you're doing like long walks, like when you get to the top, what you want is some more nutrition.
Absolutely, of course. I mean, I think a lot of the big things people often ask is the fact, how do you keep it so light in your backpack? And the answer is really, I don't.
You don't know.
It's always a heavy pack.
The pans and stuff are heavy, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. And fresh food in itself, I mean, there's a reason those dehydrated meals exist. It's to keep weight down, and they do serve their purpose. But for me, it just really heightens that experience, having that fresh food, I think. So, I guess I love to do merge those two passions.
I just remember thinking that's a great idea. But yeah, it's part of like a journey of someone like you were like the halfway point, say, cooking like nutritional meals for everybody, for then going to the next leg. I could see you as
absolutely
a niche market for you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's that too. I mean, I was doing one just the other month actually in Arran. A guy doing a charity challenge, walking the whole length of the coastline, which was about 70 miles in one go. And I ended up going up there and being his support cook. So I was just I was basically a couple of steps ahead of him, making sure the meal was prepared and he was getting fresh cooked stuff on the way. So I was a last minute addition. He was just going to have sandwiches from the co-op, I think, but
which most people do.
Yeah, I think that last minute hot food sort of spurred him on. He said, but no, he was fantastic. He got it done very well.
So I was looking. So the 6th of June 2021 was marked a 5-year anniversary of where you started this journey. So what happened 5 years ago on that day?
That's right. Yeah, 5 years. Yeah, so it was a very different life I lived back then. So. I'd sort of, I guess, going really far back, I mean, sort of puberty years and stuff. I mean, I found myself getting all these sort of thoughts of, I guess, sort of self-loathing and demotivation and a lot of insecurity at school and stuff, and just something that I really kept to myself and just didn't really know what was going on, I guess, through that change as you go into sort of adolescence as well as we do. And it was only later down the line that I really sort of started to discover that this was the start of clinical depression for me, really. And it was something, again, I didn't really speak to anyone about. I just kept very much to myself. I didn't speak to friends, family. But I was working at the time in a lot of hospitality areas. Again, I didn't do much cooking at the time. The cooking side is very sort of self-taught. But I did a lot of front of house. And heading sort of 18, I ended up working behind the bar. I guess this sort of brought in the introduction of alcohol to my life as well. And again, it's as is sort of the rite of passage, I guess, for many of us in this country, 18 sort of thing, going out on the weekend into the pubs, clubs and nightclubs and whatnot is generally just how we sort of do things. It seems to be British culture in a way, but for me, alcohol also had that feeling of an escape. It sort of almost silenced my thoughts in my own head. Gave me sort of, I guess, that sedation from these sort of self-loathing thoughts that I didn't have previously. And this kind of really began to snowball for me. And moving across to sort of university, this really sort of began to be sort of started to control my life.
So it's university when you get there, it's all about going out and partying anyway, especially at the beginning.
Exactly. I mean, so it's quite hidden, I think, at first. And again, you do hide it under that sort of social illusion of just being, well, it's just what you do. You're just going out meeting people that sort of way, and you meet people in the pubs and bars. So again, I didn't really see it as an issue at the time, but after being there for about sort of 2 years and stuff, it really sort of took control most aspects of my life. I mean, I'd ballooned in weight. I'd got sort of over 22 stone by this point.
Wow. Through just that drinking cycle.
Yeah,
so you didn't used to be that big.
Not at all. No, not
right.
at all. I mean, I was never sort of completely slim at school sort of thing, but I was sort of carry a little bit. But that was mainly sort of big bones, I guess, rugby build. But
right, yeah.
But it was ballooned and went that sort of way. I'd taken up smoking sort of full time, and by sort of its height, I mean, I was over consuming of sort of 20 pints a day as well. I was really every single day. It was my lifestyle. Again, I was back working in pubs at this point as well. I was living in, so it really was sort of kid in a sweet shop, and really was just this escapism from getting away from my own thoughts. And this really continued all the way through. So at this point, I'm maybe about 20. And then it wasn't until the 6th of June 2016, so by that point I'm now 25, that really I came to terms with the fact that I'd become an alcoholic.
So why that date? What happened on that date?
So that was the date really that it all came to a head.
You sort of had a bit of a breakdown kind of thing within yourself?
Yeah, I'd see it more as a sort of breakdown epiphany sort of moment. Yeah, I mean, I was in a serious relationship at the time. Again, I was living sort of two lives. There was the life sort of with her, and then of course there was the life where I was going out sort of.
She didn't really know.
No, not at all.
No.
No one really knew really. It was all quite hidden. Even sort of work colleagues, friends. I sort of went out of many different groups. I was quite sort of solitary in terms of how I'd go out about my business. I guess getting this sort of drinking alcohol quota, if you like, each day. But it was just a complete sole focus for me. It was the one thing I was aiming for every single day. And really, although there'd been moments of attempted intervention on small fronts, but not realising the full extent, it was only really on this moment where really it compromised me as a person that this relationship ended. And I came to terms with the fact I was an alcoholic.
So what did you decide on that day then?
It was very much
just to do something about it,
like a right sharp. I mean, initially, if I'm honest, it was completely to try and win her back. It was initially for that. It was. I vowed to sort of remove alcohol from my life.
I suppose with most things, that's our first step, is admitting to, not to anybody else, to yourself, that it's something not right, that you've got to do something about it.
100%, yeah. And again, you get a lot of people often reaching out and talking about this and asking maybe how they can help their friends and peers and, perhaps husband, boyfriend, and all other genders. And it really has to come from yourself. I think it has to be something that
they have to want to do something about it, don't they?
Yeah.
And you can't really do anything. You can't help them get to that point.
No, and I often think you do have to hit rock bottom before you come to terms with these sort of things, which is very unfortunate. And I do feel very lucky to sort of have that moment, because some people never have that in their whole lifetime. But it was initially from that day, and I vowed to remove the alcohol from my life, and really just try and prove that I wasn't this person that I'd become.
Were you smoking as well?
I was at the time, yes. I was full-time in that sort of way. I mean, completely lethargic lifestyle, as I say, very overweight by this point. No, don't exercise at all.
Doing all the bad things.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was I was just existing, really. I was just getting through each day, just completely just not making anything of myself, just I don't know, just getting to the end of each day and really to black out oblivion drinking.
Are you thinking there's got to be more to life than this?
Yeah, well, again, at the time, it was really, alcohol was brought into my life initially, and what I thought was helping me out, it felt almost medicinal. But by this point now, it was very clear it was my poison.
You were almost sort of dependent on it.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that's those sort of levels and that sort of consumption. I mean, it's high amounts, that sort of thing. And really, it's even getting up sort of before work, I'm drinking, at work drinking, sort of that way, straight after work, different sort of peers into the early hours of the night. So it was, it's a completely different life, but it was something that at that moment, again, initially to win her back, I had to sort of leave everything behind. No, that's sort of left in the past now. We didn't get back together, sort of thing. But over time, I realised that this sort of change was for me.
Yeah.
And for me, going forward in my life, and for those around me, sort of family, friends who had stuck by me. She was very selfless during those sort of early days in terms of the support and stuff. But ultimately, again, it has to be. For me, this sort of journey. But
so when you reached this epiphany and decided that you need to do something about it, did you then open up to the people around you about it, or did you just get on with it yourself?
I did. Well, basically, I removed myself from the situation completely. So it was a complete polar right turn. I mean, I'm going from sort of living in this city. I was in York at the time for about 7 years. Again, I had a job there that I had for sort of 4 or 5 years. And really, overnight, I've had to sort of quit the drink. I left my flat, I left my job, and I returned back to Cumbria. Literally overnight. So I didn't say goodbye to anyone in the city. I had a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances in that place.
You probably worried that they were going to try and convince you to stay.
It was either that or I had some bar tabs open, one of the two.
Yeah.
But I came straight back, and I was very open initially about why I'd come back. So straight away on my personal sort of Facebook page, I put on there saying, look, I've left the city. This is why. I've come to terms with the fact I'm an alcoholic, and I've got to sort of seek help and try and get through this. And I could no longer be in that scenario, in that situation, and make this change.
Yeah.
There was no way I was going to be able to remain. I was managing pubs at the time, and sort of suddenly, become sober in that environment. I mean, it would have been an impossible task.
You
I
have
think,
to
for
remove
me.
yourself completely, otherwise.
I felt so. Yeah, I felt so. I said to get better in that situation and to change things, I had to come back, and so I returned back to our roots into Carlisle initially.
Good stuff. So when you came back, then what did you do?
So again, this sort of I guess opening up to everybody that was, I guess, quite a surprise to a lot of people. Again, I mentioned from the very, very start, I kept this very secret in terms of the whole sort of mental illness side I had. The drinking side was maybe seen slightly on the outside of some people, but not the extent of it. Even those who spent most days with me, they wouldn't be there for the duration, so they'd just see a little snippet of that daily existence. And initially, I just threw myself into fitness. So again, I'd left the cigarettes behind, left the alcohol behind, and vowed to sort of make this healthier lifestyle, and just initially threw myself straight into it. So I was heading back to the gym straight away, just trying to find things really to replace that time. And alcohol had such a huge period of time in my daily sort of life.
Was it tough to make yourself do that? You're making it sound quite easy. Like, I just decided
not
to
at
do
all.
that.
Not at all. No.
I can imagine it's quite difficult.
Yeah, I don't mean to do that either. No, not at all. I mean, for the first 3 months, certainly it was
a slog.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can remember sort of the feelings of withdrawal. My head felt so heavy. You'd have cold sweats. And really, alcohol's not something you should really go cold turkey on.
Yeah, so alcohol and fags. Did you manage to stop them straight away as well?
Yeah, completely.
That's a double whammy.
Yeah. So that, and then trying to slim down the weight a bit as well. So it's
Did you start seeing results quite quickly with the weight?
I think, just removing the alcohols, that sort of levels that I was consuming, it was all pints I was drinking as well. I wasn't sort of someone who was in vodka, lime and soda, sort of low-calorie diet sort of thing.
Calorific, aren't they?
It was all, copious amounts of pints each day and then fall into the kebab shop, pizza house on the way back. So initially, that sort of big change, I guess, that's a huge surplus of calories lost initially.
Yeah.
And of course, that wasn't the reason behind it, but that was obviously a benefiting factor.
And then when you add in exercise...
Completely, yeah. It's that basic equation, I guess, isn't it? Sort of calories in, calories out sort of thing. So again, I've thrown this in. I took to the gym. I had a couple of mates who were turning up on my doorstep straight away.
I was going to say, did you have people sort of encouraging you?
It was brilliant, yeah. The support I received from sort of day one was really instrumental to this turnaround.
Did you come back and sort of reconnect with some old friends from when you were here?
Yeah, I've been lucky to have a lot of close friends through school and stuff throughout my life, but ones who really probably did during this period, maybe I clung on to them really as friends. I think there was moments where really I think they'd given me enough excuses, or maybe enough enough moments of maybe forgiveness and whatnot, and I was still in their lives somehow. So I do feel, again, that's another thing I'm very thankful for, the fact that these people didn't really turn their back on me, and even sort of family. You can hear this sort of thing through those ailments, and when something like alcohol is very controlling, it's a very sort of dissolving substance in your life. It dissolves all things. In relationships, finances, the lot, and yeah. So for them to come back and initially see this moment of awakening and come on my doorstep straight away and offer that support was truly humbling, really, and a real sort of encouragement going forward. So a couple of early friends, I sort of Andrew and Craig, sort of turned up my doorstep, sort of turned up with their bikes, went for a bike ride out there into the woods, walked into the down the tarn, sort of talking tarn, not too far from here. And then it wasn't until my best sort of mate Ryan turned up on my doorstep and said he was going to take me on a hike, that I had no real idea what to sort of come for. Even growing up in this area, the hills are something I really neglected. It was the closest I came to the lakes was probably coffee and cake in Keswick, really. It was, he said he was going to take me on a hike. So I didn't know it was just going to be sort of just a walk around the woods, or walk sort of somewhere sort of quite lowland. And I just sort of dressed up in what I had to hand at the time. And I didn't really have a penny to my name at this point.
Jeans, was it?
Not quite jeans. It wasn't far off though. I think I had a pair of swim shorts to my name, sort of some jumper I'd wear in the pub, sort of I had from Next, and just these old bratty trainers. There was no grip on them whatsoever. And he took one look at me and said, "I can't take you out looking like that." So, but this was it. I'd just come back from this complete life change, and really, I had paid off my debts somewhere. I was there. I was paying off all the credit cards and whatnot. I was in a huge overdraft. I paid for my flat fees, and I had nothing really to my name. I wasn't working at this point either, so I'd left my job. And on the way through to the lakes, we sort of drove through, and he pulled in at one of the sort of local outdoor stores and picked me up a pair of boots and took them to the counter and just bought me these boots and said, you're going to need these for the day. And it was moments like that. A show of support that really you just can't, you can't sort of appreciate enough. I think that sort of moment. And I said at this sort of point, I'm just completely in this haze of, both heartbreak and sort of alcohol withdrawal and sort of my pounding for sort of wanting to sort of another cigarette. And I'm just sort of floating through this sort of period, just trying to march forward in a positive way. And having the support around again was huge, and to open up. So again, that sort of thing. I'm a huge advocate for sort of talking about these things now. I did keep it secret for a long while, But just seeing what happened when I did sort of talk and the positive steps I was able to make with that help was huge. But so we got with these boots now. We drove on further down the lane and pulled up at the base of Blencathra, and he was going to march me up there. So for those that know the Fells, the Lake District, it was one of the larger ones, just as you head towards Keswick from sort of Penrith, and it was a real baptism of fire, shall we say. So I was basically frog marched up there, sort of.
How did it go? How did you feel after that?
Well, I was blowing out my arse, if I'm honest. Just sort of marched up. I remember just sort of staring at my feet, just one after the other, heading up the way, and it was just pushed on. I mean, it can't have been particularly fast or any sort of that point. No. It can't have been. I don't think it was particularly enjoyable. I mean,
stopping for Harrison breaks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, but then again, a few weeks prior, I'd been stopping for fag breaks, sort of thing. So it's hard to really imagine that the complete difference in that short period of time that really led on to something much more.
Well, at least with exercise and stuff, you get a reward, you feel good. Whereas I feel like fags and alcohol, there's no real reward, you just want more.
Yeah, huge. I mean, I think in both. I mean, I think addictive tendencies can definitely sort of format themselves that way, and I think it is that endorphin hit you're looking for. I mean,
I suppose it's like trying to get addicted to good things.
Well, absolutely. That's what I'm going in for. I mean, I think ultimately all we want to be is happy, and I think we try and get these sort of endorphin, dopamine hits from somewhere, whether it's sort of alcohol, whether it's fags, whether it's adrenaline seeking, or whether it's various moments like exercise. And I think again, reaching that sort of summit point and that sort of hit of knowing that sense of achievement, as well as your body sort of almost singing out to you in terms of, yes, I'm loving this exercise. It's a much more long-winded period of endorphin hit than you would do from alcohol and cigarettes sort of thing. So, and you certainly don't have that come down either.
No.
apart from the heading down the mountainside with the screaming knees, maybe.
But it's a sense of achievement which you don't get with bad addictions.
No, exactly. But I mean, again, I think it was about that, trying to replace those vices with something more positive for me, and that was very much initially in the early days. Because alcohol just filled. I mean, it was literally my existence from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night. So it's a long period in your day to replace all of a sudden.
But so many people get sucked into that, don't they? It's such a common thing for people to become dependent on.
Yeah.
Even like not necessarily being an alcoholic, but just drinking out of habit.
Absolutely.
Just because you've got some in. Oh, I'll drink these.
Yeah.
And then you get more in, and you just keep doing it. And some people don't even realise.
Almost ingrained in the culture in this country. And again, during the point that we've just had in the lockdown sort of thing, I mean, there'd be a lot of people who, again, it's the whole 5 o'clock somewhere sort of thing. You sat at home, it's much more accessible. Again, those you probably would never even admit to even having a problem or sort of things. And I don't think it's generally the amounts.
Some people over the edge.
I think so, yeah. And likewise, those who maybe were living a life like I previously was, I can't imagine how I'd have got through that period with all of a sudden almost having your supply cut off overnight. Even the supermarkets are out of stock and all sorts. I mean,
that's true.
A lot of people were almost made to go cold turkey by losing their supply. It was, honestly, I think it's, for me, it's never the quantity of stuff. I think it's very much, if it's affecting your life, then it's too much. If that's one glass a night, or if that's, 2 bottles of wine a night.
Or the fact that you're doing it at all.
Exactly, yeah. So I never think it's a case of, right, well, you don't drink as much as I do. That means I'm more of a, it's more of a problem for me, unless it's for you. I don't think that's the thing. I think each to their own on that front. And I'm certainly not anti-alcohol either. It's just something I've come to terms with the fact that it's no longer got a place in my life.
Yeah, it doesn't work for some people.
A change for me. Yeah, exactly. So,
so what happened? How long did that go on for before you sort of made some more changes then, or what was the next step of your journey?
So this was literally the first 2 weeks after coming back, sort of this up to Blencathra. Yeah. So again, it was just all over the place.
It's more like keeping yourself occupied, so you didn't start like thinking about the past, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of. Again, it was just trying to push forward for redemption completely. It was trying not to be this person I'd become, trying to win back that sort of ex-love, if you like, and also trying to sort of become this better person for myself. And and again, so Blencathra was 2 weeks in. Upon reaching that sort of summit, my friend turned to me and didn't even really let me grab a breath and sort of went, right, we're doing Helvellyn next week.
Wow.
So again, those who haven't done there, it's 950 metres, third highest one in England. So a week later, same story again. It was like a glorious hot day, marching up Helvellyn from the Filmier side, and just getting to the top at there. And again, as you said, that sense of achievement, looking across on sort of the tar and the edges below, it just really sparked what felt like a new addiction in me at this time. It just felt as if this was something I enjoyed. I enjoyed the whole feeling of struggle as well. Going up there, you have to earn it.
That's where the reward comes from, doesn't
exactly.
it? The struggle to get up there, and then you get there, and you're like, oh, it was worth it. That's usually what you.
So for me as well, it seemed to sort of quite fit in terms of this physical struggle I'd had in my own life as well. That sort of, it's like a physical manifestation of what I'd been through. So that uphill struggle to the top, that redemption, that view that you don't always get, I guess, in this northern part of the world. But the view from the top looking below, I mean, it was just spectacular. And that was really the start of really this new passion for hiking and heading on. So a week later, Scarfell Pike, then it was few over the Wainwrights. I headed down to sort of Snowdonia for Snowdon, up to Ben Nevis. And by this point, I'd even started running as well. So I was still gymming, I was hiking. It was a completely different lifestyle. And this was all in sort of the first sort of 4, 5, 6 months of coming back from York. So again, peers that were looking in from that side that I still kept in touch with from York, all of a sudden seeing one person who was borderline asleep on the end of the bar every night to all of a sudden,
Mr. Active.
Where's he today? He's running along the tops of Helvellyn. It was just, honestly, it must have been, I mean, it was a big, huge change for me. It was like leaving this sort of, what was 6 months felt like years,
It's like
years
a life
back,
swap.
But absolutely.
It's like you've swapped places with some guy. Like you live in somebody else's completely different life.
But I was just so determined for change at this point, I guess, to sort of right my wrongs, if you like, and sort of to do this redemption. I mean, through that sort of addiction, I'd completely destroyed sort of that sort of relationship of mine in York, and it just was something that really ate away at me. Just something I didn't want to be that person anymore at all. And
have you been back to York?
I have, yeah. I held it for quite a while. It held obviously quite an emotional significance to head back. And whilst I still made a lot of contact with a lot of people there, it was something that I had to wait until I was ready. So I don't think I returned for after a year really. But even so, when I did return to York, walking around sort of my old haunts and walking around the city, now sober, looking through it for new eyes now, it felt very familiar, but it also felt very distant. It no longer felt like home for me. I love seeing everyone again that sort of way, but it was almost like their lives hadn't moved on. They're just the same. They were in the same places.
They must have commented on the difference in you,
the same jobs. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's often that thing, isn't it? I think of yourself. You see yourself every day. You don't often see the sort of the changes as they are, unless they are quite dramatic. But for someone that's going from 1 minute seeing you that way to next minute,
Well, this is one of the things. So, what were you at your heaviest?
So over 22 stone I was at the time. So so.
Jesus.
It was.
What are you now?
Well, after lockdown, I'm not quite as good as I was just then. But, but I got down to about 15 stone by the time I returned to York. So it was, and that was in a year. So it was
7 stone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was.
What is that in pounds?
15 stone is 210. 22 stone is.
I'm just thinking we've got a lot of non-UK listeners
who
are like, what, this is British and they're stupid stones.
22 stone is about just over £300, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
There we are.
So I can compare that to some like UFC people, the heavyweights.
That's the one when they get announced when they come in. Yeah.
Wow.
In the red
£300. That is big. How tall? But you are tall, so.
I'm 6'2", yeah. So again, I'm not sure your American equivalent for those measurements, but I mean, I've always carried it quite well. I'm quite a broad sort of figure as well, but it was very much.
That's incredible.
How
long did that take then?
Well, this is over the first sort of year, as you say. So from that point,
you didn't lose 7 stone in a year.
Yeah. So it's
wow.
It's honestly, I mean, the look back from then. I mean, we're talking at this point, and I've done the hiking side of things. I mean, that in itself is quite a big calorific output, sort of hiking up some of these fells, heading up there. Then I'd taken up sort of running. Initially, I mean, I couldn't run a bath at first. Someone suggested to me, let's go running. I was like, no, I'm all up for this change, but this is a step too far now. But he managed to get me out. We started off doing a couple of kilometres, and again,
it almost killed you.
It wasn't something I wanted to do, but we pushed on, and sort of 2K became 5K, became 10K, to even 20K, and I somehow got convinced to sign up to do a marathon. And there we are, just before the 12-month mark of this big turnaround, 6 June 2016. I'm lined up at the start of a marathon, and there we are. And I ran this marathon in a decent sort of time, and it couldn't be further away. It was a complete stranger looking back on him, and just shows how much really a life can change in a year.
7 stone. I still can't go with that. 7 stone in a year. That's.
It was. I mean, everything. I mean, just to leave that whole life behind. I mean, was just. I mean, I at one point, I couldn't. If you just said the week before that any of this would happen, I would have just laughed you out the pub.
But it literally just came out the blue.
Yeah. I mean, I was sat there literally. I mean, I went to work that day. The day sort of the relationship had broke down. I still went in the morning, and my boss came up to me and said, "You don't quite seem right." And I literally, that's it. I just completely broke. I was just gone, and I remember sitting outside. I literally sat outside by myself for what was my whole shift and more. Just. That was it. I just knew this was no longer life. And my friend John, who was my colleague at the time, he came out with a pint about because he came to replace me on the shift that day. And he came out of a pint going, "Oh yeah, I'll get this down, you know, just make me feel
Yeah.
better." And I remember I said to him then, I said, "I don't drink anymore, John."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and said, "You what?" I said, "No, I don't drink anymore." And that was it. That was the
Probably
day
thought you
after
were joking.
this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's that's that old adage of just more is all you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely. I mean,
That's actually the opposite of what you needed at the time.
it's a difficult one to sort of say, "Oh, do you regret being at that point?" and sort of thing, and do you regret sort of, you know, how deep you fell into it? But for me, I mean,
You
it was
had to,
also
you had to.
exactly. It was really my investment to get to this stage. I mean, that
Yeah.
was my way of coping. I mean, there was at times where I didn't really want to exist anymore. I didn't really want to be on this planet.
Exactly.
You know,
Like you were saying before about you were just sort of existing, you were just drifting
Completely.
along. But that rock bottom, it became the beginning of a journey.
yeah.
So if you hadn't,
Yeah.
you probably would have still been doing that. And you might not
100%.
even be here today.
No, exactly. No,
So-
I do maintain that. I mean, at one point, even hitting sort of 30, which I did last year and stuff, was the finish point for me. I was going, if I hadn't
Yeah.
achieved certain things by that point, then I didn't want to be here any longer.
Like horrific to go through, but you just got to think of the end result.
Absolutely, yeah. And looking back again through all those moments of sort of darkness and sort of pulling through and stuff, I mean, the life I'm sort of living now, you know, I couldn't have imagined it at all, completely getting to that point. And really, it does just sort of show that, you know, you should always stay for tomorrow and see what's coming. And again, just reach out and talk to others. And it was, yeah, I mean, it's bananas to look back on it. It really is, and how different a lifestyle it can be. Yet how low and how dark and how rock bottom I was at points.
But I'm sure,
during that
like
time.
you've put it out there. I'm sure it will have helped other people who may be in a similar situation to you, going, you know, I need to do something about this as well.
Well, that's half the reason I share now. For me, I mean, I'm quite comfortable in sort of my relationship with alcohol now. I mean, I'm not someone who's, you know, I'm 5 years sober now. I do live a very sort of different life. I said I'm still active.
So
in
you
sort of the
literally
hills.
still don't bother with
I've
alcohol
not touched
at
a
all?
drop since that day. No, same with the cigarettes. I've not touched them at all. And I mean, there'll be moments still of craving. Don't get me wrong. I mean, even the lockdown was quite a difficult period. It was almost like being back into sort of those old days of being stuck in your house all of a sudden and wanting that
Yeah.
escape. And even the positive vices were taken away. You know, the gyms had closed. You sort of mountain rescue was saying you couldn't go into the hills so much. You know, just
Yeah.
in case you fell over, and you had to get them called out. And then you'd obviously expose them to potential COVID cases and stuff. So losing those vices and stuff, and I wasn't really much of one for home working out. I never was for home drinking either. So
No.
it's
But
it's a
well,
very
drinking is a
separate
very
place.
sociable thing, though, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
like tonight, if England win the European
completely.
Championships, most people will be having a drink, me
Yeah.
included.
Yeah, I'm sure, exactly.
But for some people like you, it's like I don't need it. You don't need it anymore, do you?
No.
You've outgrown it.
And as I say, it's not something I've become against. I mean, when I stopped, I said at the time that, you know, I was giving them alcohol, not giving them my life. And one of the close events to that stopping date was a mate of mine stag do. Was literally 2 months down the line. They were going, you can't go, and it's going to be too much for you, and this sort of thing. And I said, I'm going on it. I said, because this is a big moment in my friend's life. You know, a guy that I've known for sort of 10, 12 years, and I forced myself into those situations, which again is probably not advisable, but
You did it though.
I was there. I was still taking myself out onto sort of the pubs, clubs, and
Well,
really,
this is the thing about like how you were saying about British culture is like it is possible to have a really good night without alcohol,
yeah.
just because everyone else is doing it and that's what you're supposed to do.
I mean, of course, there is the temptation moment. I mean, and after, I mean, as the night goes on, I mean, you do see a very different side to people.
Oh yeah, we've all been out on those nights if you're the designated driver or something, and you watch your mates slowly get hammered, and you're still stone sober, and you're just like, oh, this is
man.
not good.
I
It's
know,
not good.
It was the karaoke bars at 3 a.m. I think was when I called it a night. I think they can't sing at the best of times, but
Yeah.
But yeah, and I also think sort of heading out to those areas. I mean, there's a quote that always sticks by me was about sort of sitting in the barber's chair, and it says the more times you sit in the barber's chair, the more likely you are to get a haircut. And for me, it was kind of obviously I knew I was forcing myself into these situations,
Yeah.
going out to the pubs more and more, and there was that risk factor, you know, if possible, would I get the temptation, would I have the craving, or would, you know, sort of someone serve me a drink incorrectly?
Yeah, you're probably
but-
thinking like, is it too soon for me to put myself back in
Yeah.
that environment?
But I also didn't want to lose that social aspect that I really enjoyed.
that's
You know,
true.
I've always been a
Yeah.
social person. That's one of the main things I loved about going out and working in hospitality, to be fair. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was, but yeah, it's, frankly, I can do both now.
Some people, have you tried the non-alcoholic lager?
Yeah, I do drink a few of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, again.
They're getting better. Like when they first came out, they were horrific. They were horrible.
I know.
But now they've worked on their recipes. They're actually quite not too bad.
I remember back in the day, there'd be a dusty old bottle of Caliber in the fridge, and that was it. You know, it would
Yeah.
never get asked for, and all of a sudden, someone asked for it, and you go, "What's that again?" But these days, yeah, they're all on it now. Every single
it's
brewery
like
is doing a different one,
ciders
but
and everything, non-alcoholic
Yeah.
everything.
I must admit, I do avoid sort of the non-alcoholic wines and the spirit side of things. I do find those have a bit of a placebo effect on me. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I've sort of, I mean, I've been offered those in the past, but it just doesn't feel. It feels too close to me for the real thing, and I don't like the sort of sensation. But the lagers wise, I've always enjoyed the taste, that
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of thing, and I feel comfortable with those. So, I do enjoy those on an occasion. I'll be enjoying a few of those myself tonight when everyone else is on the proper stuff.
Yeah. So when did food come into all this?
So food has been a passion from really the early days, really. I mean, from as long as I can remember. I mean, I used to cook a lot with my grandmother as a child when she'd sort of look after us. My mum was sort of working. She was a nurse, sort of single parent, so we often get a lot of time with my grandparents and just sort of watching, developing little things from there. And I just always fell in love with the idea, the fact that it always brought people together, brought people around the table. You always chipping in, again, that sort of family mentality where you're doing Sunday dinners, where you'd all be chipping in, helping the cooking on the stove, and everyone was put to work, even the sort of children and stuff. So
yeah, chopping and slicing and
exactly.
stuff. Yeah,
So I really like that sort of feeling of togetherness again. I suppose a similar pattern to what we mentioned before, that social aspect. And it sort of developed from there, where I just loved again how watching all the different cultures and how they did things, and watching the shows on television in terms of where these ingredients came from, different recipes, different food, and trying all these different flavors. And so when everyone else, I guess, was watching sort of the kids TV and stuff, I was probably there in Food Network or Saturday Kitchen, and
not watching Gordon Ramsay, I hope, as a child.
I don't think he'd not quite made onto. I think he just had his first sort of show by then, but it was probably more Keith Floyd back then. I think was probably on still, but. Even so, I mean, he likes a glass of wine, didn't he?
I was going to say, he's always got a glass of wine when he's cooking,
Absolutely,
doesn't he? Always.
Yeah. One for me, one for the pot.
Yeah, half of it in the food, half of it in my neck.
Yeah, so I suppose that's it. Maybe the sober Keith Floyd. That's what I'd like to be. But yeah, even that and sort of the cookbook side of things, again, I was just quite, I guess, just researching constantly and just trying little things. And it wasn't really until my grand sort of passed away that I really started to really experiment a lot more in the kitchen, I guess, and allow that passion to sort of come through more. And again, working in a lot of the trade as well. I mean, I did come across a lot of chefs, a lot of kitchens, just watching, learning, asking questions, and just sort of absorbing this stuff from other people that developed into sort of where it has become now. So I'd always loved sort of cooking from scratch again, completely self-taught, just trying new things, trying new ingredients. Whenever we were on holiday again, I was always trying what the locals would eat, sort of thing. I just loved the aspects for it. And again, I suppose when this new passion came about of into the hillside, I mean, I was often taking a lot of sort of extravagant packed lunches out with me a lot of the time. So I'd pack some the night before, leftovers.
That's what I was wondering about. What point when you started going on walking up all these hills and fells was when did you think about cooking on the journey?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That's sort of how it went. Was initially was just me taking last night's dinner out or prepping a lunch, to take out. So rather than sort of the soggy cling film sandwiches, I was there, rocking up with sort of a nice red pepper rolls, mascarpone pasta sort of thing to eat on the top of the summit.
People like, look at this guy.
I know, there was often a few comments, as you say. Often a few comments when you're at the top of what you're having. And
but I suppose, like, you think everything you're going to get when you get it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
But nice to have something fresh and hot.
Well, someone actually suggested at the time, they said, well, why didn't you start cooking it why didn't you get a stove and cook it from scratch out here? A bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke. But I'm the sort of person who takes that sort of thing and runs with it.
I could do that.
So that was it. I got myself a little camping stove and then got my little kit. And I thought, well, why not try and basically recreate my kitchen in the outdoors? And of course, I've got to carry my sort of implements out there, my ingredients and stuff. But I've never, been shy of that. I can if it goes in my bag, I'll take it up the hillside. So that's fine. So and just little steps into that sort of thing. And by this point, I had started a bit of an online presence, if you like, on social media. And I was basically just sharing the views I was doing and the packed lunches I was taking out. So this is where the Fell Foodie name came about. Again, being
did you come up with that yourself?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah,
Good
so
name,
again, being a proud Cumbrian sort of thing. Again, we call sort of the hills fells in this area. So the hills and mountains, we call them fells.
So what is the difference between a fell and a mountain? Is fells just what we call in Cumbria?
It's just this. It's just up here. Yeah, I mean, it comes from initially I think the Nordic sort of fjall is initially where it comes from, which just means hill.
Right.
And again, it's up here. So it's something that didn't really even transfer to southern England. So again, if you're listening from further afield, you'd be like, what's a fell? But people often think, as he fell over and all this Fell Foodie. But
a fell is basically a mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we call them in these parts. And then obviously foodie was just sort of a less pretentious term for gastronomy.
But people know what a foodie is, though. They kind of get that. So
absolutely. Yeah. So it sort of put the two together. It was quite nice alliteration, sort of the double F. And it was just me sharing literally the views and food I was taking out. Didn't share anything about me. My name wasn't on there. No pictures of me. And then I got the stove and I started sharing more about this food I was actually cooking from scratch in these natural areas. And it just started to snowball from there, really, and started to get more of a presence, and people had more of an interest.
Just because it was a good idea. People have latched onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just sort of, again, liking that sort of lifestyle, I guess, of thinking, oh, I could do that. Well, that's nice. That's going to heighten my walk, or that's going to improve my sort of camping trip.
Yeah, because for me, because I've done quite a lot of the fells, it's always based around like ending at a pub.
Yeah, of course.
So we go all the way up there, and we go down there, we end at a pub, so we have a pint and a pie when we finish. That's the reward. But I like the thought of like having your reward when you get to the top, because sometimes you've got to go up there, then you've got to slog all the way back down, then your reward's at the end. But to have it at the top actually refuels you.
Yeah.
So you have a nice break, some food, and then it might be just halfway of your journey, and then you carry on.
And I think also so often we're always rushing around. We're always living such busy lives. I mean, even when we're doing the hiking side of things, we want to get to the top, get to there, get the summit selfie, if you like, and then head down again straight away. I think just spending a bit more time and actually, putting out.
That's what it was. Can we pull his Instagram up? Yeah. The one, I don't know if you remember one of the last ones that you did. Oh, there it is. You were just cooking it, but you kept looking at the views while you were cooking.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's that last one.
That's it for me. I think it's just spending a bit more time up there, allowing yourself to take that in. And just spending a bit more time in nature and really doing something that's quite mindful in a way of just cooking, sort of chopping away at your ingredients and just
you
taking
play
insights.
Play that latest post.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh, we won last night. There you go.
So where was this at?
So this is up on Hallin Fell, just near Ullswater. So quite a small little fell, really.
You got a little chopping board.
Yeah, so I'm there.
Adjust something quickly here.
No, that's all right. But yeah, just the idea of it, it's cool. But again, do you get like a lot of passers-by like coming up to you and go, what are you doing?
You do get some looks, yeah, definitely for sure. And a lot of people always sort of asking you then come on your next walk with you and whatnot and keep you company for some food. And I don't think it's because of me patter, really. I think it is because of
Hey, you never know.
Maybe so, but but yeah, I mean, again, there's all different ways. A lot of people do ask, about elevating their meals slightly, and you could be taking things that are quite pre-prepared at home and just warming it through in the stove. I mean, that's a step to take for first.
Yeah.
And there's all little shortcuts to go, but for me, I do like to try and produce as much from scratch as I possibly can on that location, which obviously is just me making my life harder, really. But
you've set yourself that I want to do everything from scratch.
Absolutely, yeah. I try to do as much as possible. So even when I made that cake, for example, I made the whole cake batter and that on the location.
Right.
The little oven top thing, I've got my stove, put it all in
there. So was it this one where you did mash?
Not this one. I
saw one you did mash.
I've done mashed
that's impressive.
before, yeah. Bits and, loaves of bread before from scratch and things. And I hope to do some sort of, I think next one, I'll do a fish and chips soon, I think, from scratch completely.
Brilliant. Yeah.
That's all out. I've done little shallow fried things before, sort of like katsu curry I did from scratch up there once. That was really nice.
Right,
yeah. Little fritters I've done, but to do, proper fish and chips would be nice. Overlooking a mountain sort of a top summit.
Just imagine you, one day you're going to be doing, you're going to slowly a crowd around you. Look at this guy.
Maybe that's it, yeah. Maybe that's
all the starving people at the top of the fell that you're at.
Yeah, but Pied Piper. Maybe they'll follow me up.
Yeah, so we can watch this one now. If
cool.
Oh, goodness.
Blimey.
I'll turn the sound off.
Yeah. What music was it? Do you have to find copyright-free music to put on all of these?
It's probably just some viral one that one of the social medias was doing these days, probably.
So what's the equipment? Is it the same equipment that you always use?
Yes, I've got a few various stoves to take out. So this one's a little gas burner, quite a substantial one, I think, that I'll take out. But it's nice to have quite a wide sort of head on it for the flame head side of things, so it replicates sort of that hob at home.
Oh, yeah. Everyone who's just listening to the audio, you're going to have to go on YouTube and watch this. It will make you hungry.
Rather than just a little tiny burner that can get quite an intense heat spot on the pan, I guess, which to burn slightly.
Yeah.
But I've got a little wood burning one too, which again, I mean...
I keep seeing, if you got one main one that you use, I keep seeing where you put wood in it.
That's right, yeah. The BioLite stove, yes, that's a cracking little one as well. So again, it allows you to have that sort of real fire aspect, but also in a controlled way. So you're not having a fire on the ground, which again is frowned upon in the national parks, and again...
Look at that, the food with a view behind it.
There we go. That's how I like to do it.
Biryani. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great little bit of kit, and again, it's really clever how it's got a fan system in it, so you can actually adjust the fan, which makes it more intense flame and lowers the flame down. So you're actually using real fire like you would a controlled hob at home. So it's a great bit of kit, that one. Yeah, I love it.
So have you got a plan for? I saw the other day. Have you got announcements coming?
I've got a few things in the pipeline.
Anything you can tell us?
Bits. Nothing at the moment. No,
I saw one of your posts. Are you branding things?
No,
I saw a tub with your logo on the top of it.
All that is, that's an old hair gel pot that I put my sticker on. I got sick of people saying, why is the hair gel in all your meals? But I just reuse the pots because they're really handy screw-top lids. So I put my own sticker on the top, so they're not available for sale at the moment.
That got me thinking, he's going to do some Fell Foodie branded stuff.
Well, if enough people are interested, I'm sure I can create a line.
How many followers have you got now? Nearly 15,000?
Nearly 15, yeah. I go through enough hair gel pots, so I'm sure I could get a few of those out to people.
Have you been doing your swipe up stories?
Oh, I've had that for a while, but
good.
that's a swipe up. Yeah, you've got to jump on these trends when you can. But
Yeah.
little bits, links to the website, whatnot, links to recipes and YouTube and whatnot. So,
So what is the main interaction you have with people? Is it just about is it social media, or do you get people wanting to come on your walks, or both?
So as I say, I don't really take groups out and such.
No,
I'm not
no.
sort of hired that way.
Do you think you would? Is that something you would consider?
It comes down again to sort of it's British sort of bureaucracy really, in terms of the fact that I'm not a mountain leader, so I haven't got an accreditation, therefore I can't get insurance.
Right. Okay.
So if I have to go through that course, I want to take people out in the first place. But then again, it then becomes more of a job rather than a hobby, and less escapism factor. So I don't know. We'll see on that front. But
because you only started this, when did you start all this?
It'll be probably 3-4 years ago now. Probably
Right.
It was quite early on in sort of that change in lifestyle, as you say. That
When did
started
Fell
on-
Foodie start?
That's it. Yeah,
3-4
years.
years
Yeah,
ago,
so it's
okay.
5 years ago since I've returned to Cumbria and turned the life around really, and then 4 years since I've started doing this really, and merging the two. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's very much, I do a lot of sort of workshops and demonstrations for brands and things where I'll demonstrate the kit or what to do, or maybe show how to do a bit more outdoor cooking.
Yeah.
So I've had some great little festival appearances before where I've done sort of cooking there and just talking through the process, and maybe little hints and tips. And
Yeah. I went to the food festival last week at Lowther. Did you?
Oh yeah, and I wasn't the Lowther one. No. But
No.
I've got a couple of coming up sort of at Keswick Way, Kendal. I've done a few at before. And
yeah.
bits in there. I do some store demos for some of the outdoor brands as well. And again, I've travelled around sort of here further, sort of Scotland, Wales as well, bits there. Quite a few booked in for these next few weekends, which should be nice. But that's one aspect. But then I also still share that sort of personal journey as well. So I do a lot of sort of the mental health speaking side of things, where I talk
Right,
about
yeah.
sort of how, you know, the outdoors can be such a healer and things, and how it's helped me get through those addiction, through the depression side. I mean, at one point, obviously, you know, fighting sort of suicidal thoughts a lot and stuff, and how that sort of change has allowed a new path to be taken, really.
So did you ever get to the bottom of why you were like that, or what caused it, or was it just the way you were wired?
For me, I think
beginning.
I think there's different aspects to lots of depressions. I think for me, I think some of them can be caused by quite sort of behavioural ways in terms of what you're eating or where you are in situations. Others can be caused maybe by external factors, maybe more short-term ones, things like grief, you know, sort of maybe poor relationships and things where you Stockholm syndrome type stuff. But for me, I think it's always been a chemical aspect. It very much came in from the very change of puberty as you're going through that change.
Just the way
And
you were wired.
Yeah, I just don't think I've always just produced enough of that really happiness, you know, feeling, if you like. So I am on medication these days. It's something I did hold back on for a long period. I didn't want it to change my personality and stuff, or change
It's
me
just
as
for balance,
a person.
isn't it?
But that's it. It just puts me on that even keel.
Yeah.
At one point, again, I was using alcohol as that medicine, but these days
That's true.
I'm using more the exercise, that endorphin hit, and a bit of supplementary medication as well. So it's not something I'm cured from. It's something I still battle with from time to time.
Of course.
So coming to the bottom of it, I think it's just acceptance, really, accepting the fact that that's me, that's something I just live with and I deal with, and I know how to sort of deal with better these days and how to cope better, rather than sort of really drinking myself into obscurity.
So did you document any of this? Were you write any of this stuff down?
I did a bit in the early days. It was one of the sort of things my ex-partner said to me at the time was she actually gave me a little book and said to journal at the start of it, and just sort of to write down really what I was going through, my thoughts. And it's not something I ever did before. And again, sort of being sort of big burly bloke, I was like, I'm not going to write down my thoughts. What am I going to put in a book? What's this
That's
about?
the kind of stuff where if you had kept it in detail, would help people or yourself further down the line, because they can sort of see clearly what you've been going through and why you got to that point.
And I mean, I've got it all for the first year. I documented everything completely,
which is probably the most crucial part, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that first 3 months was the most intense period.
You're at your most vulnerable.
Yeah, and after that 3-month period, it was really like it was like having sort of a big like lead balloon in your head.
Yeah,
and it was weighing you down constantly, and all this, and you just felt this pressure all the time, and you know, heavy-headed, and one day someone took a pin to it, and it just popped, and all of a sudden I just felt that sort of relief, if you like, and that sort of sensation, and I could lift my head up again, and that was really when the most intense craving started to disappear a bit. I started seeing the life a different way. A lot of questions I'd always had about various things seemed to just click and get into place, and it was a huge, that really was like an epiphany moment. I mean, I didn't want to go sort of too sort of spiritual in it or stuff in a sense, but it was.
It's whatever works for you.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, it was quite an intense period, I think, and it probably went a bit the other way. I probably went a bit euphoric for a while. Right. It was actually probably, I don't know.
So what was it like when you read your journal back, like a year or so later, or years later?
I've not read it back in its entirety
Have you not?
At all. No, not at all.
I can see a book coming out. There's a book. There's a book.
We'll see. I mean,
but surely that would be the basis of, if you were talking to people about any of this, surely your diary, your journal would have some key moments in it that you think, that was a key moment, and I'm glad I recorded that.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I mean, again, that's half the reason I do share it, is really just the fact that, if I can help someone else by sharing my struggles, then it makes my struggles more worthwhile. And really, I do share quite often still on my social media and stuff about some of these difficulties, and it's not so much me struggling on that day now, it's more me looking back all the time.
I remember this struggle.
Exactly, yeah, and talking about where I was and the difference from what it was, sort of thing. So I do feel in quite a strong position these days, and I feel as if I know if I am having a bad particular day and how to manage it better. And again, and obviously I'm still sort of clean and sober, that sort of way as well. But yeah, certainly looking back on the sort of journal entries and things could be helpful in the future. And who knows, if I am given the opportunity to write a book at some point, which would be a great privilege, then yeah.
Have you put many photos of your old self on there? What you used to look like?
There'll be some on there. Yeah, there'll be some on the Instagram side of things. Yeah, I've got them on there. Especially there's a little highlight there on that said there's my journey, which shows.
Oh yes, I did see that.
Some of the old pictures on there. So again, it's as much a sort of mental change as it was physical. I mean, again, sometimes these things you can't see much of a change in people. Sometimes it can be quite internal, but for me, it's two different people.
Yours was both, wasn't it?
It's two different people, honestly.
You were changed inside and out.
Yeah, I mean, I think my mum certainly says it. She looks at me sometimes, just doesn't even recognise me looking back on the.
Yeah, but she must be proud of you now, though.
Oh, completely, bud. Completely. Yeah. And likewise, I'm happy that I can be sort of a better person for friends and family now as well. I'm more sort of accountable. I'm more reliable.
Yeah. You're you.
Yeah, exactly.
Seems like for most people, when you're in that situation you're in, you weren't yourself. You were just sort of this. You were a person, but you don't know who it was.
Well, that's another great quote that sticks with me. I think it's, people say you've changed, but I haven't changed. I've just found myself, and that sort of thing. And you're always there inside at some point, but just, just a bit hidden away or held back by these ailments and by these vices.
That many people fall victim to traps of society.
100%, yeah, 100%. It's
also moving back to Cumbria. That was a good move.
We've come back to true God's country now. That's it, exactly.
But it's going to help, isn't it? Because if you're like a city environments. Going to be much more difficult for you to change than being here.
Yeah, I mean, I said I'm Carlisle, originally just outside Carlisle, a place called Brampton, so it's quite a small little town that way. But even moving somewhere like York, I mean, Carlisle's not the biggest of cities, but it always felt big, sort of for me heading there from the town side of things. But moving to York, I mean, other cities were off the equation for me. I was never going to move to like Manchester, Birmingham, London. They were too big for me. It was too much of a change. But you sometimes do see that more, that people that grow up in the country want to go to the cities and vice versa. But for me, I went to York. York was just sort of small enough. In a way, it actually felt smaller than Carlisle. I think it was. It was quite. It's got quite a sort of intense sort of centre. So it's because it's all a walled city. Everything's there, condensed in the centre, and the housing's all around it. So when you actually are in the centre, which I did work in the centre as well, you tend to start seeing quite a few faces. They recognise your face. You go that sort of way. So it has that town mentality in a city. Yeah. But in the same way, as you say, so much more is accessible and so much more is open a lot later. Back in Brampton, I was 10 miles away from Carlisle, 9-10 miles. So it was, I didn't drive.
Even if you
at
had
the time.
a thought of like, I want a drink or I want a fag, you just couldn't get them.
Yeah, it's get on the bus and get through there sort of thing. And that's it. 11 o'clock was the last bus. Then you were stuck on, you're going to spend 20-30 quid on a taxi home. But anyway, that seemed expensive for a night at the time, but as time went on, that would have been a pretty cheap night. But yeah, certainly coming back, I mean, all of a sudden you had much more on your doorstep again. And although a lot of friends and stuff, they'd moved on by this point. I mean, I'm one of the only ones who now lives in the area. They've all moved on further, but they all return to this spot. You find families are still here, home's still here. But then relocating to the Lake District where I am now, in Ambleside, which I moved after the first 3 months. Didn't really intend it being that way. It just sort of naturally fell into place. Again, with this sort of new passion for the hills, I had a bit of work in Grasmere at the time, and then ended up meeting some of my employers that I have now in the cafe I was working at the time, and I just sort of trusted the journey. Really, I allowed it to sort of move on to that point, and found myself in the lakes, even though I wasn't sure if I was going to go back to York. I was still trying to win this partner back. Was I going to move somewhere else, move abroad? I had no idea really. My head was all over the place, but found myself back in, as you say, the home county, and just fell back into it with this new sort of passion now, and enjoying sort of nature.
So what else are you doing as well as Fell Foodie?
So I'm an office manager full time. So Fell Foodie is just on the side. So I've been doing that for sort of 4.5 years.
So is that why Fell Foodie? If you could figure a way to do it, as I'll say, a business makes it sound like a job, but if you could do it and make money from it, I'm assuming that's what you'd rather do than anything else.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I've always said, it's never been the aim for me to sort of turn it into sort of something that way. But the more and more as it goes on, the more and more opportunities I've had, whether it's been sort of talking on things like this, or the podcast, I've had some nice media appearances. I've had some fantastic magazine interviews before and a lot of brand sort of work as well, which...
I saw a clip of you on ITV a couple of years ago, was it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That was an ITV border one, yeah.
They followed you up to... that was somewhere in Ambleside, wasn't it?
It was Grasmere, that was Rydal it was, yeah, Rydal Water, up to the caves.
That's where we filmed a video for one of my band's music videos.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. It's a great little spot, that, isn't it, the caves, yeah. That's where they filmed The Witcher as well, season 2 up there recently, yeah. They saw him, well, it was all cornered off while Henry Cavill was up there doing his shooting. But
I remember watching your video this is definitely pre-COVID. I didn't know when it was from, but I could tell definitely because they're like, you were both next to each other, shaking hands. Yeah. You were cooking and she was sat right next to you looking at it. I was thinking, if that was now, you'd be like, excuse me.
Yeah. Distancing. Yeah. No, it was, when was that? That was probably 2-3 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
It seems, it's hard to think back, isn't it? Because, last year just seemed like a write-off, didn't it? You
yeah.
think in 2019, you're like, that was a couple of months ago, wasn't it? Yeah, but... No,
it's funny, like, even with the football, they still named it Euro 2020, even though it's 2021. It's because they don't want to disrupt the record books.
Maybe so. Maybe that's good to get all the branding done. They don't want to pay to change it all, maybe.
That's true,
Get all the strips changed and all sorts. That's maybe why. Memorabilia.
But that was a good... feature that they did on you.
Yeah, that was a great little one, local one. That's one of the first ones I got.
So how do you think they came up? How did you come to their attention? Just because of your social media?
Pretty much, yeah. And basically, it was a friend of mine, James Forrest, who lives in Cockermouth now, and he's quite a famous name in the world of hiking. He's a journalist by trade, and he actually, after sort of meeting me through this hiking world, through Instagram, I met a lot of the people I hang around with now through the app and through social media. And he did a little piece on me for a magazine about my story, which was all online. And I just shared that again on my personal Facebook at the time. And I actually had a chap I used to serve in the pub back in Brampton in the Howard Arms that was a reporter for ITV that saw the article and he went, oh, this is great. This would make a great bit of coverage. I'd love to speak to you more about it. And it went from there. So again, it's all been people that I'd met in the past life had just all come more to fruition. It's been a really, really natural journey. I've just allowed it to sort of... I've never aimed to get anything. It's all been quite organic. I've never pushed going,
that's the best thing about it.
It's just sort of started to snowball this way. That was the very, very start where I just sort of shared it. The first time I put my actual journey on that app for the first time, I shared a lot of the cooking, the hills, but I did share 2 years in, 2 years sober. I put the whole thing on there. And now I was sharing to strangers, really. I was no longer sharing to friends and family. I'd put it out there into the world.
But obviously that's a sign that you got to a point where you felt comfortable that you could do that.
Absolutely, bud. Yeah, absolutely. And again, to imagine me doing that a few years back, honestly, I wouldn't have spoken to my best mate about it. So
if you could have shown yourself a few years before, you'd have been in the pub going, that looks a bit like me. Oh. Unrecognisable.
I think I was too insecure to post a selfie back then, let alone say anything else. It was just completely...
But it is something to be proud of.
Thank you, bud. Thank you. I mean, it's a different life looking back. It really is. And it's something that, I'm pleased to be in a position where I am now in terms of looking back.
The way you've sort of explained it makes it so it seems so matter of fact. But to actually make the choices and actually... it's the following through with them that's the tough bit. And you've done it.
Thank you. I mean, it's...
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, looking at if you're reading your journal, that would bring a lot of it home. Because how honest were you being in these journals?
Well, I think it's probably too honest. I think
that's the best thing. Because when you go back, you realise what you were going through and how much of a shift it was.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying it, to read it on the page, because obviously it just flows out of you I imagine when you're in a situation like that.
Yeah.
You just.
Well, I like to think something that people have often said to me now is, again, in this sort of world, I guess, of quite fake social media and stuff, people put things on for certain reasons. A lot of people have often said, I'm quite honest, genuine, and authentic on my account sort of way, and that's something I'd like to maintain. But even though I would consider myself very open, very honest in terms of the stuff I put on there, especially about my personal journey, I reckon those journals are even more honest.
Yeah, but that's where the best-selling book comes into it. You see,
so. I mean, there's still some revealed bits, but
because I've had people on here or friends and family and messages from people I don't know saying like, "Why? It seems like you don't edit the podcast. You've left this in, you've left that in." It's like, well, that's probably the appeal of the podcast is we don't edit. We don't. If someone really wants something cut out, we will. It's happened like once or twice in 5 years, but generally that's just people. People can look up the back catalogue and see what it's about, so they know what to expect. So
that's grand, isn't it? Well, from sitting here, if anyone is listening, this is a very natural flowing conversation. To be fair, so if it comes across that way on the podcast, then that's
and I was saying that
genuine.
Just get people on, just let them talk, because a lot, like even when you did the news thing, it's very brief, isn't it? It's very you got your point across, but there was so much more to say, but you just don't have the time.
It was the cooking on those things too. I was looking.
I was thinking that. I was thinking because the end scene is like you and her just looking at or eating your food after you're thinking, how long did they have to wait? Just this is a bit awkward.
No, they didn't give me long at all. I mean, that one wasn't too bad, but the BBC one I did, but they were quite pressured. They came
cook something now.
It's like Ready Steady Cook. Here's the Harriet going. Right, what are you doing here? Come on, time of the essence.
30 seconds, guys.
Love Ainsley. What a hero. Love Ainsley. But it was, they gave me 20 minutes. And I thought, well, that's not a lot of time in a kitchen at home, let alone sort of on a stove.
If you want quality, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's like a Jamie Oliver book. This dish only takes 20 minutes. First, you need a cooked chicken. All right.
Yeah. What's usually more an 80-pound slice of fillet of beef. Like, okay. It's so it was, especially again in the outdoors, you've got the elements at play too. So you might have sort of the wind coming in, you might have a bit of rain sort of thing. If you've got sort of the gas and how they act, so your heat transfer isn't obviously quite as efficient as at home. So the whole thing. So some of these more slow cooked dishes, especially anything carb based, pastas, rices that take a bit of time anyway. Yeah, and you've only got one single burner as well. So if you've got anything that needs 2 pans, then 20 minutes it's quite an ask all of a sudden already. So. Especially if you want to do something that actually looks nice on a video piece for the final shot.
Then you need like a hot plate to keep things.
Well,
they weigh a ton.
Well, this is the other thing, I suppose. If you ended up doing it, sort of cooking for people in the hills at the time, I mean, it's not going to be as hot as the restaurants. And
you'd have to have a team. You'd have to have other people to carry other stuff. Anyway, but people would still pay for that. People would pay for that. If part of the expedition was someone to go along with them, cook them a meal at the top. They wouldn't care how you did it. Just make it amazing.
Maybe it was a multi-day thing. Maybe me and a team of Sherpas. But we'll see. But it's about 20 minutes they gave me at the time. So I thought, well, I'm just going to stick to something like a steak for that. I think I can do a steak quite nice.
It looked good.
That looked good. It was tasty.
I was watching that at the wrong time.
Brilliant. But so that was a bit of a high pressure moment, I guess. And
I thought.
But hopefully. I mean, I've had someone since then that, again, I can't quite reveal just yet, but they've given me a little bit longer to go, so hopefully they come out quite nicely. And for me, generally, again, as I said, I don't like to rush that sort of thing. I like to just spend that time in the outdoors and just as long as it takes. If it's prepping all the stuff from scratch, again, even in the sort of kitchens, you go to a restaurant, go to a pub for a meal, there's been a lot of preparation gone in before you've sat down for that meal at night. They're not just prepping the whole thing from scratch there and then to put it on your dinner.
No.
Even when it's freshly cooked, there's still been pre-prep that's been done before that stage. So then to have 20 minutes, no pre-prep, nothing, you're just going, wow, okay. My life skills. Yeah, exactly. We run out of time, but but that was great. That little article like that and a little piece. And that's just led on. Again, I had that piece again, someone else saw that, and I went to get a little piece in the magazine, and they've led on to things even locally, sort of Cumbria life. And
I think it's a combination of like Fell Foodie as a notion or an idea, a concept is a good idea, combining exercise and cooking up the top. But then when you combine your story of how you got there, it just all makes for it's all good.
Yeah, well, I guess
people are interested. As you will have found out then when you have, like, at some point you've been doing it just as Fell Foodie with no story, then you release your story and it opens it up to even more people.
It has done.
Yeah.
And even more so, I mean, now even sort of the request you get to do various little bits and take it further is, I mean the story side now, as I say, I mean, it's something that I'm quite at peace with. I feel very much about nothing's off limits. I'll talk about anything these days. I feel as if it's pretty much out there anyway. But likewise for now, it's very much a giving back type of thing, if you like. Now I try to sort of share that story and really sort of push that message that we should reach out and talk about these things. We need to sort of remove the stigma that comes with mental health still. We
have social media, so it's one good way that we can use it.
Yeah. And I think again, some of those people that sometimes they will be sitting going, what am I feeling here? What is this? Or why do I feel like this sort of thing? And to have similar experiences and even see perhaps more positive outcomes, I think to share those publicly is can be a good help. So that's something I'll always continue to do, I hope.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, so have you felt people reach out to you and like have they told you that you've made a difference to them, or?
There's been some very humbling messages in the past year. Yeah, it's sometimes I don't even really know what I can say back to them. I mean, it's But I always do. I always figure. I mean, I've always replied to everybody who's ever sent me a message. I think it's the least I can do. I mean, I'm not sure if I can always maintain that forever. It is still growing, but it's a case of currently. I think if someone's taken the time, then who am I not to reply back? But some of them have really been, either really harrowing messages or moments of they really are rock bottom at the time, and you don't know what to say in terms of what you can help, or also some that have gone, look, I've read your story a few years ago, and look, I want to tell you now. One chap the other day, I think, messaged me to say, look, I've read this in the magazine, I'm 2 years sober myself now, and sort of stuff, and changed it around, I've discovered hiking, and it just sort of,
that makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Yeah.
Absolute goosebumps.
Yeah.
You can't feel as if you're responsible for someone to change someone's life like that, but all I've done, I suppose, is maybe aided that journey.
You've just been honest.
Yeah.
All you've done is been honest, and that honesty helps other people.
And I've had something. I mean, I asked to do a talk in the school at one point as well, and sort of stuff. And that was. I mean, that's so far I think
Tough
the
crowd.
proudest thing I've done. Tough crowd.
Tough crowd.
Yeah. They don't let you slip up, do they? But it's
you're spilling your guts out, and they're just there going.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, so desensitized these days from all everything they see online. But no, I mean, that was just. I mean, to be sat there on a stage talking to some sort of young minds, that I could picture myself in that crowd, knowing that I was going through this at 13, 14 when it first started hitting me, and not knowing what the hell was going on.
Yeah. So what age were you talking to?
So this was again that 13, 14
right,
kids, yeah. And again, I was completely open. I didn't sort of censor the story in any ways, or even down to sort of the moments of not wanting to be here and stuff. And just to sit and just look at those eyes sort of hitting back, and knowing that some of those might be going, oh, this is what I'm feeling.
Some of them will be related to what you're saying. Some of them will, definitely.
I mean, you never know where that goes in terms of a long time, but just to be able to give back like that, just again, was something that I could never really have imagined, and felt again truly humbling, really. And it was quite sort of, I guess, emotionally powerful as well. You sort of came out there. I mean, you felt the adrenaline almost in you, just the whole, not for nerves, but just almost the fact that, I don't know, very powerful.
It's a sense of achievement, I suppose.
So.
It's one of those moments where you're actually reflecting on what you've done, because you're talking to other people about it. So up to a certain point, you're just doing it. It's just you on your journey. But then when someone asks you about it, then you're going to kind of talk about it. Oh, what have I done? You actually start realizing, oh, I've actually done quite a lot. I've done quite well. But it's telling other people about it that makes it. It's a bit like when you've done, like, say, driving or playing guitar. You get good at it. But then when you have to tell somebody else about it, you're like, oh yeah, what do I do? How do I do that? What have I done? It kind of, that's what makes you think about how you've done. So I think that's probably what your emotions were, like a sense of you realizing yourself what you've done.
Maybe so. It was just very powerful, as I say, and something I'd love to do more of. I think
the age of the crowd as well. Maybe the younger people, you sensed that it was more important what you were saying because of your age of your audience, rather than talking to adults. Because you could see yourself in those young people.
But exactly that. Like, I remember assemblies back when I was at school, sort of William Howard sort of thing, people coming in and doing talks, and I mean, I was always quite attentive to listen to these people sort of thing. And you had some fantastic stories. We had like Auschwitz survivors and stuff coming in and talk to us and things, and someone who climbed Everest and things. Amazing sort of stories, and again, just true humbling moments. But to sort of head back and know that someone else was listening, maybe like I was listening.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say the whole crowd was, because no doubt they weren't, but I mean, that's often the case. Again, even when you throw things off online, I mean, you're not ever going to have every single person go and read what you've said, but
you'll get it all.
I always think, if it hits that one person, then
you get a couple of people who've probably you've maybe made them change their mind about something, and then you'll get other people at the back going, I'll never get that 2 hours back, will I? It's just the way it is, isn't it?
It's absolutely, yeah.
But if you did manage to get through to a handful of people, then it was worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always my mantra, really. That's always something I'll stick with, I think.
So how did COVID affect things initially?
So, I mean, personally, I think it was quite a tough period, I guess, because I said all of a sudden these sort of positive vices I had were just sort of stripped away, and for the first time, really, since maybe getting sober and stuff, all of a sudden I felt as if I was in a similar place at times.
Because initially it was like, you can't even go out to exercise. You can't go anywhere.
Exactly. So, and it wasn't even just that. I mean, obviously there was the whole sort of 20 minutes, half an hour exercise thing that was thrown around. Obviously it was a Michael Gove interview, wasn't it? And then everyone just clung to it and went, that's it, it's the law. And it was like, it's just something you said in an interview.
But you remember there was like, look at these people, they've driven to exercise on a mountain. You remember that? They've taken their dog somewhere. What's going on?
But it was even like, it was almost sort of, even in like the town like Ambleside sort of thing where I live now, I mean, I'd walk down to town and you have people just sort of eyes on you, looking like, who are you? Where are you from? Where are you this? And I'm like, I live just up the road.
Yeah.
Like, and even the shop you were in, you felt like you had to tell everyone going, I only live, 14 steps away from here.
Don't you know who I am?
I felt like wearing my council tax letter around my neck as I walked around, just to prove that I was local and sort of thing. And it was almost borderline xenophobic at times in sort of codes. It wasn't a nice time at all. And really, again, you had this and you were trying to do the right thing, and I sort of stayed in. I was still working as well, and work went absolutely bananas. The online boom, and everyone was ordering everything online, sort of left, right and centre. So it went like Christmas for about sort of 6 months. And so I had all that, and I had no release. I had no time to go to the gym. They were closed. I felt like I couldn't go out. I didn't really want to. I've never really been sort of the home workout side of things. And then the mountains, even though I look at my windows, the likes of Wansfell, Loughrig, and some of the smaller fells there they are. Mountain Rescue, they're saying you couldn't go out, and well, not couldn't go out, but didn't. They were advising you not to in case of obviously someone collapsed, fell over, and then passed COVID onto their sort of leaders, which I can understand. And there was that sort of, again, that moral responsibility once again, and that sort of selflessness. But meanwhile, all of a sudden I was really doing is just sacrificing myself and sat at home again and just stewing. And really, it was moments like that I just felt as if, this was the time where I'd love a drink to escape.
Yeah, yeah.
And the cravings.
You were always worried about that, weren't you?
They did come back stronger during that period. They really did. And I'm thankful I didn't act on that. But I can imagine a lot of people in a similar position probably have slipped back into old ways during that. And I'm not surprised at all.
Oh, it definitely would have tipped some people over the edge. I mean, they said domestic abuse went up. I can't remember what percent, but it went up. And you can just imagine, because people could have got out and gone and take themselves out of that situation, but in lockdown they couldn't.
No, it's awful, isn't it? I mean, it's not. It's not just so really. I mean, again, it's how do you deal with something like that? Though, I mean, I don't think we're designed to be confined as a species, sort of thing, in that sort of way. But I always felt as well that if I was feeling this in somewhere like Ambleside, in quite a green space, overlooking things, then what's someone feeling in a high-rise city block? Yeah. It must just. I always try to think, no matter how you're feeling, you're not in a situation like that.
Yeah, like even just be able to step out in your garden, which you're lucky to have a garden, and just have a breath of fresh air. Imagine not being able to do that.
No, exactly. Exactly. And then there was the whole thing, you were working so much, and you were going, all right, then you were going, well, I've still got a job as well. It was just really trying to weigh things up and the balance of things, and it just wasn't an easy period for anyone. It seemed like there was some people who had no time left in their lives, and others who had all the time because there was those at furlough. Enjoying that fantastic weather we got, and out they were and having a whale of a time. And it again must have been great as well. But then on the flip side, you had those in the hospitals and the nurses who were working sort of these huge shifts and whatnot, and wearing all that PPE. I mean, just again, very very difficult time to even think of being selfish. I think and being selfless at that time, but yeah, it wasn't an easy period for myself personally, but it wasn't an easy period for anyone. So
no, but again, part of the journey, you need these sort of tests along the way to see how far you've come. And how long was it before you could get back out properly again then?
So I mean, well, again, it was like anyone, wasn't it? In a way, there was obviously we had the first lockdown, didn't we? And then we opened up in between. About
June, was it?
I think it was. Yeah, I mean, work was still quite bonkers that period as well.
Plus, you were allowed to go out for exercise.
Yeah,
one of the things.
Yeah. And I think I had that harder period as well of being stuck at home for a bit and then not exercising as much, and probably diet slipped a little bit as well. Again, you're putting the weight on again to a bit of a degree, not obviously the extent I had in the past, but then it's almost trying to. It's like a comeback again. Aren't you? You're trying to get back to where you were previously. Yeah. And the difference this time is the first time I was basically everything I did was a personal best. It was always I've never done this before. Oh, I've done better. I've done it. Oh, I can do this now. I can do that. All of a sudden now you're thinking I used to be able to do that. And now you're struggling to get back to those stages. So it was another mental battle in itself, really. One that's not complete, and I don't think will be complete, but one that I've got to chase now. But so the first little lockdown ended, I think, and work was still absolutely bananas. So that quickly went into the second lockdown again. And I think it was only actually coming out of that second one that really I started to get a bit more normality back, I think, again after that, where I started heading out more into the hills and getting back out into which was, of course, the winter.
Still doing it in winter,
so out there. So
I saw a couple of shots that you're still doing it in the snow.
Yeah, I've still been out there doing that sort of bit. But again, that's sort of the cooking aspect too. I mean, it was one thing going out into the hills during COVID, but again, it was all sort of essential exercise, if you like. But going out to cook sort of my dinner up on a fell, so I didn't feel like essential exercise so much. So I wasn't doing any of the outdoor cooking aspect then at all. So it was very much just going out just for the actual exercise extent. So. So I wasn't doing that sort of stuff at all. But then I suppose coming into sort of now into that the third lockdown, I found a lot easier. I felt because things had sort of by that point settled in a bit more where you knew your boundaries.
Christmas.
Or was it just after? I mean, it's difficult to find out.
It was just I can't remember.
But it seemed to sort of settle into where you allow sort of a bit more time outdoors and sort of. So it was a bit more
prioritised exercise or something that should remain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So by that point, you felt as if for me in an area like this, life was getting quite back to a normal lifestyle by that point. And again, I understand a lot of the hospitality side of things was still, wasn't open at points, and those who were heading out to the pubs wasn't there. The gyms, I think, had started to open up again, hadn't they, by that point? Work was always normal for me throughout that. So by this point, I was off to work, I was fine, I could do my shopping normally, I could go out for a run, go out for a hike at work, go to the gym. So by this point now, it'd come back to normal for me by that third one. So I think from then on, I've been grand, but but yeah, not an easy period for people.
No.
Hopefully, something we don't have to go through again. But then, yeah, I always try and look on the other side and think, well, there's those who are
Always worse off. It's always worse off.
Absolutely. So it's I don't want to be sort of like a woe me during this period because it's not. There's a lot worse position than I am.
So have you picked up some endorsements from companies from doing what you're doing?
There's been a few along the way. Yeah, some nice little ones, and nice little working with some brands, as I say, whether or not it's working with those sort of on live workshops or cooking that sort of way at the festivals and whatnot, which has been great. I've had some bits where I've done some video productions for some brands now as well. So I've had a few boot companies and a few stove companies where they've asked us to produce the content, which has been great. Or some of us that actually then will pay and go, well, we want you in this particular branding, or we want you as part of this campaign. That's been great as well. And
Cool.
And really quite fun. And opens up that sort of, you see the other side of the world and how these things work, you know.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when these brands are dropping into your inbox, you think, well, first you're going, bloody hell, what do they want me for? Next
Then you get used to it.
Then you're going, well, what do they want now? But no, it's it's a pleasure to be sort of in that sort of area, I guess, and to be able to work with these. But ultimately, I guess they know the worth too. I mean, they're trying to push on their products out to other people, aren't they? So I don't think you lose sight of the capitalist aspect to it as well. But it's it's a pleasure to be able to work more with this kit and try out some of these new bits a bit before some others do, or even have access to it that you maybe wouldn't have in the first place, or stuff you couldn't possibly even really afford. But
I don't know how I've never. If I was going up to Fell and I saw someone cooking a meal like that, I'd be amazed. I'd start shuffling over.
I mean, the opportunities that have come so far have been great. And again, as I said before, you asked about if I'm trying to turn it into anything. Currently, again, it's not the aim. More and more steps have come organically, where it's looking as if possibly it could become something more viable.
Yeah, you have the brand, and you have this it's a personal story and it's a brand. So that key things that you need if you're gonna take anything like seriously in a sort of a business sense or a career sense.
Absolutely. Well, again, I'm just enjoying it for what it is. I mean, it's a case of all the little bits I've got so far. I mean, if it's things like this. I mean, this just seems like bananas thing to be doing a bit ago.
It's like how can I make it a business or a career, but also keep it fun?
Yeah,
that's your sort of dilemma.
Well, I'm that genuine and authentic, I think, as well. I'd hate to be sort of a sudden just selling my soul, going,
no.
This is buy this great frying pan. It fries eggs really well.
But you also wouldn't probably push stuff that you didn't believe in, or you?
No, exactly. I mean, that's it. I mean, keep it food related, but it's but yeah, I mean, little things now, which again. If there was the opportunity to sort of to do a book, for example, or do an opportunity to sort of do something on media based,
I could see that definitely.
Then that's just the next step and another level that would be amazing to achieve. But if I don't get to that step, then what I've already done so far has been brilliant as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that I don't really take for granted or think of the next step too far, because at one point I didn't even think I'd be this far in life.
Yeah,
so it's I mean, I did a post a bit ago on my 30th birthday saying that anything after this point was a bonus, because that was always my D-Day moment, that I said if I didn't achieve this, then 30 was bye-bye. Yeah, well, I wasn't sticking around. And that was still,
look at you now.
Yeah, that was still something in my head, even just before those points of getting sober and stuff, was still always the aim, still the plan, self sort of induced deadline, if you like.
Yeah.
That so just to really have that message of, if you do stay, and what could happen, then all of it now is just I just accept it, really. We'll see, but it's exciting as well. We'll see what the next stage brings. I mean, just trusting that journey, seeing what comes along. Some doors become available to yourselves. You have the option to walk through them. So I always think, just jump at those opportunities and see where it takes you.
Keep it organic,
and not to regret these things. If things don't work out, then maybe it's not meant to be, or there's a reason behind it. So I just really open myself up to these things now and just see.
Have you met other? Has it opened you up to meeting other people in like the outdoor industry?
Oh, completely. Yeah, absolutely. There was a girl, Nick Hardy, goes by Adventurer Nick online. She's a female hiker based in Sheffield, but now lives over in Cockermouth. And through the very early days on social media, she had like a WhatsApp group that you were allowed to join, and they'd arrange sort of meets and arrange hikes. And I just started. Probably 100, 200 followers back then. It literally just started my account, and I went on that. And there'd be some big group meets. So the first one I did there was about 10 people. Second one like 20, or then about 30 in the third one. And all these people who again had found the hills for different reasons, or found the outdoors, or just enjoyed hiking, or some names that were a bit more well renowned in that environment as well, and really sort of building those new bridges towards new friendships or new acquaintances, and also getting their experiences too of working out what they'd done. So, for example, I didn't have much experience of sort of hiking or planning a walk or even sort of camping out somewhere, but these people knew a bit more, new kits, their new places. They'd been down to Snowdonia, or they'd been up to Scotland, and they'd told little things. And again, just listening like I did with the cooking, I guess, just listening, absorbing, and just making those new steps forward. But some of those now are very close mates from that world now, that have all really met through a social app.
Yeah.
It's all been through there.
Yeah. What would you do without social media?
I know, but it's a very the outdoor community, I think, I found it a very inclusive place to be, and a very positive place to be too. And even when I have revealed obviously things like that, I mean, there was the little aspect bit in your head as well, thinking, oh, you're going to get some trolls backing you now for revealing sort of your darkest, deepest thoughts. But I've honestly found it nothing but positivity since I've shared these sort of things.
Yeah, but you've got nothing to be. People could say what they want, but you've done it. You've made the change. So I don't see what people could say to change that.
Well, maybe so. But there's always still those keyboard warriors.
You'll always get them. You'll always get them. But you know, you've been on an authentic journey. You've done it all yourself without any help. Yeah. So let them say what they want.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to say as well. I think it's sort of, I've given them something to talk about, or just you know the truth. So just sort of.
I think a lot of people who have anything negative to say will be probably people who were or are in a similar situation to where you were, and they resent the fact that you've actually got out of it.
I think there often is an insecurity aspect to those things at times, before. But yeah, I mean, it's not my place to judge on that either. But thankfully, I've not been able to receive that.
It's part of social media these days, isn't it? You're always gonna get it.
It is.
Someone can't just do something good without someone trying to bring them down. It's just
that's the way of the world, I guess, isn't it? The way of the world and way of life. But no, we'll see. I mean, it's honestly, it's been a fantastic journey to this point. So we'll see what comes next. It's.
So what else have you got? Any other hobbies? Are you into football?
I like my football. Yeah, I don't play much these days, but
Who's your team?
I'm a Hull City fan, actually.
Hull City.
Hull City, yeah. It's a bit of a random one. I mean, I should be a Carlisle fan, really.
Well, it's Hull, isn't it? Hull.
Well, if you're from there, it is, but I'm not from there, so it's. My dad was never a football man. You see, he never liked it, so he wouldn't really embrace that sort of aspect of things. And my uncle over that sort of way lives just outside Beverley. He took me to the games as a kid, sort of Hull City games, and it just sort of stuck. And yeah, although I'd consider myself a very proud sort of Carlisle Cumbrian fella, it's I'm a Hull City fan.
That's fair enough.
I mean, I'll still look out for the Carlisle results, but it's it's just happened that way. But yeah, anyway, just won the League One last year, so back in Championship. So
yeah. Do you think England can do it tonight?
Again, as I was just saying, my own personal journey, I feel like when we got to the final after that last game, it was just it was not quite tears, but it was a very proud moment. You felt that you've not seen this before in your time, and I think for me, I mean, thinking about sort of tournaments I sort of watched, I mean, maybe Euro 2000 was probably the earliest one I sort of really remember.
Okay, yeah.
When we get knocked out on that, Phil Neville playing the diamond and giving the penalty away to Romania, 10-year-old, and then, but yeah, I don't know. At this point now, I'm just so proud and happy of where it's gone to that I don't honestly mind. Obviously, I'd love us to win, and that'd be fantastic. But I think regardless of what happens, that they're coming back off that. Coming back as heroes in the game, aren't they?
We got to the World Cup semi-final last time. We got to the European final this time. Yeah. We've got another World Cup next year, which is in
Qatar.
It's Qatar,
so it's going to be at Christmas.
Is it?
Yeah. Have they actually moved it at this time?
Well, they couldn't have it in summer over there because it'd be like 1,000 degrees. So they're going to have it in the winter, and the Premier League's going to have a winter break.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
No, I only found that out the other week.
It's just a very exciting time, isn't it? I mean, it's such I mean, even like Sterling, you think he's been around forever, but he's only 26.
I know.
And the team's just so young and so much coming through still. And I think, again, for me, I think regardless of what happens tonight, I mean, obviously I hope they win, but if they don't, I mean, I hope they have a good performance. Obviously, I mean, they wouldn't want to turn around and get spanked.
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I know what you mean.
If it's a good performance, then I think either way, head held high, fantastic, and just embrace that, and again, hopefully people do, and they see it for what it is. And again, there's none of that sort of booing the national anthem or
I wasn't a fan of that. No, laser pen.
I mean, all that sort of stuff. I mean, just no, not on it at all.
I'm so proud to be English, but at the same time, I'm not. There's always that balance, isn't there?
An absolute 50-50, yeah. And so hopefully, regardless of the result, there's people that sort of aren't going to do those sort of things, or aren't going to take it out the incorrect way.
I know.
But
whatever will be. But we've definitely progressed, I think.
Absolutely. And got a chance, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's.
I mean, as a Newcastle fan, it's nice to be watching some good football for a change.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you're still in the Premier League.
Looking forward to
take that.
Go back to next season, like, oh god, football again. Oh, let's try this again.
Again, as we were saying, though, you're there saying that like we were saying about the lockdown before. But again, you say that to like a Cheltenham fan, also a Notts County fan, and stuff, and they'd be going, "Well, I'd love to be in Premier League."
Yeah,
you know, you're like, thankful for what you've got.
Yeah,
I mean, my best mate's a Newcastle fan. He's always giving Steve Bruce a lot of jip, and obviously when he was at Hull City, he was fantastic. He's like an idol there.
I forgot about that.
So I keep going, give him a chance. You know, he's all right. And then they go, well, he's done rubbish. He's going, well, he's doing his best and all this. And again, that's that side, that almost that keyboard warrior side again. You just want the best, don't you? I guess.
Yeah, because your enthusiasm tech for football's kind of waned recently.
Yeah, fairly.
Did you used to be mega into it at one point?
Not mega. I don't think I was ever mega into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I stopped playing football really, so I just.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, we may have also lost the enthusiasm of some listeners as well with this conversation.
Have you done? I think I was going to ask. Have you done? How many of the Wainwrights have you done?
Wainwrights, I am getting there now. I mean,
is it an aim to do them all?
I did want to finish them by my 30th year, but then obviously the COVID year. But I think I've got about 40 left now, so there's 214 in total. So I've gone through them quite all right. But you see some of these achievements going through recently. Some of the people who are doing them in less than a year.
Can you pull up the Wainwrights?
Yeah. Or some people are doing them in sort of 14 days unsupported, and others.
Jesus.
The lady the other day, Sabrina, who ran them in 6 days.
Wow.
I think she had about literally 8 hours sleep, if that. The whole time. So at times you think, oh, I'm doing all right, and then you go, bloody hell, they've done that. But again, it's not.
You're always going to get that.
Yeah, you can't compare yourself to other people. It's your own sort of path. I mean, as much as there's people doing that, there's other people that take 40 years to do them sort of thing. So
yeah,
I've never become a slave to the list.
A mistake a lot of people make is like comparing themselves to someone who's at the top. It's like, why would you compare to that? Compare to like where you were last week, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's personal achievement is nothing, and I think it's something I'd like to finish off soon. But in the same way, I've not become a slave to the list. I've not become someone who wants to, I must go and do out that the weekend. Must do this. There's many that I've done multiple times over.
Yeah, same here. So for those who don't know, the Wainwrights are a selection of Cumbrian Fells that Alfred Wainwright.
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Yeah.
I don't know why he picked these particular ones. I don't know the full story. But he's selected 214. What did you say it was?
That's right, 214. Yeah.
Particular, they're like a particular collection that I don't know. People try and do them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, generally they're by sort of summit height and things, aren't they? But Wainwright actually, he did choose them by the viewpoint half the time. So there are some that aren't actually the top of that particular mound, but they're classed as the Wainwright Peak. But you've got many other classifications too of the mountains in terms of. You've got Nuttall's and Hewitts, and obviously in Scotland you've got like some Munros and Corbetts, and they're all to do with various elevations and heights and altitudes. And
that's a lot. I don't know how many I've done.
But
I've done a few. I'd say I've done it probably about 20, 30.
I think I've done one.
There we go. Well,
that I remember. It was a few months ago. I did Hallin. Where's that there? One of the shortest ones.
Hallin Fells. Is that the one by Pooley Bridge?
Yeah.
Where you go Pooley Bridge, isn't it?
The big trig point. Well, that's where that cooking was before. That the biryani you watched, that was on Hallin Fell.
Oh yeah.
It's quite steep.
Yeah, it is.
It's not very tall, but it's really steep up there.
Me and my missus have done that, and then up to Arthur's Pike.
Yeah.
And no, is it Arthur's Seat? No.
Arthur's Seat, Edinburgh.
No, there's one up there. Winnie's. Was it Winnie's Crag? I can't remember which one it's called now. Names escape me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's Arthur's Seat up there, and then we went up there at like 4 a.m. to catch the sunrise.
Brilliant.
Oh, that was amazing. And we saw a fox.
Yeah.
We just sat down and had some food, and I was like, "What's that?" I was like, "I think it's a fox." It was just there staring at us, just moving. So I got up to like move, and it just disappeared. Gone. It was just there eyeballing us.
That was one of the best things about sort of lockdown in this area. I think actually, if you can say such a thing, was the fact that nature just really seemed to revive itself, and the outdoors, and especially the wildlife. I mean, you were seeing sort of like, again, foxes in the town. You were seeing, badgers galore around Rydal and things. Mountain hares. I haven't seen a mountain hare for like a decade.
Yeah.
And they were just trekking across the road and whatnot, and the deer were all around. It just seems as if they all just sort of, while everybody else sort of stopped, they just sort of reclaimed. And it was quite fantastic, really, quite tranquil. And the birds were just so loud as well.
Oh, they're very loud, yeah. I remember a few camping trips, I was like, you fucking birds.
How dare they?
But going back to what you said about your journey, is like, when you were in the city, you weren't really exist. You feel more human when you're out up a fell or out in the outdoors.
Absolutely.
Where you can see the wildlife. That's what it is to be human, really, isn't it?
Well, I think that's what we're designed for, really. But we've lost sight of it sometimes, haven't we?
You can get cocooned in a city where you don't see anything.
Yeah.
You don't see any grass, no trees,
Yeah.
no wildlife. It's all completely a man-made sort of environment.
There was something I read just the other day about how we really want this sort of remoteness and this sort of wilderness aspect. When we get in the outdoors, or when you think of it, what sort of remote and sort of wild away from our original sort of ethos than a city. It's a completely far-fetched thing from what we used to grow up in. But I suppose it depends on what you grow up in and what becomes normal to you, I guess.
But like some of those, I've done some of the higher ones where, like, if you're looking up, if you got a clear night and you're looking up, you can see the stars behind the stars.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
We get some wonderful skylines here, don't we, in Cumbria?
If you lie long enough, you're like, oh, that's a shooting star.
Yeah,
loads of them. When you get higher up, you see them all the time. But when you're down below, you very rarely see a shooting star, and you only see the main stars that you always see. But I didn't even know that was a thing until I started going up fells.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, some of the valleys you can go in sometimes at night time when there's just no light pollution at all, and you just get a spectacle above you.
Yeah,
and you just wouldn't see that anywhere sort of built up at all. It's fantastic.
Some of the places we've been is like Haweswater. Have you been to Haweswater much?
Yeah.
Have you been to Small Water?
I think I've been past Smallswater. Yeah,
that's where the car park's at the bottom, and then you sort of it's quite a walk up to the top as far as you can see, and you get over the top.
That's right.
It's like a what do you call it? A small
little tarn.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. Small Water. So we've camped there a few times, but
Lovely.
because it's all high edged, it quite often blocks the wind.
Yeah.
So as long as it's not raining, it's fantastic.
Brilliant. What spot? What a spot. There's some lovely spots around there as well, aren't there, in Haweswater Way, and it's quite a special sort of.
We're always quite well behaved. We try and pick up after ourselves. We always use the same spot. But did you see there were some people at Haweswater camping and just leaving a mess everywhere? I saw some stories.
Yeah,
I think some of it was people from cities just coming up because obviously they couldn't go abroad. So we'll just go to Cumbria and just destroy it.
It's really hard, isn't it, to sort of pinpoint, I think, and sort of alienate these sort of side of things. We don't really know sort of where they are, what's going on, what sort of thing. But you have to remind yourself, I think, that it is the minority doing these various bits at times. But a lot with the wild camping side of things, you do see it where obviously the ethos is to pitch up late, pack up early, and to leave no trace at all.
Well, that's the thing. If they picked up after themselves, no one would have an issue.
Yeah.
It's the fact they just left stuff everywhere.
No, but they've often said, I mean, there's the wild camping side, and there's sort of fly camping is what they call that sort of stuff. Really, it's not quite the same. But it might also be an education thing for some people who haven't really been exposed to the countryside before, don't know that's the countryside code, how to abide by certain things, and even you see with the sort of the bins that are provided, sometimes they're just sort of leaving stuff by full bins and things, and not knowing and how leaving farmers' gates open and stuff like this, which is not. If you don't grow up in that aspect, you maybe just don't know the actual bits. But it is really hard to see as a lover of the area and a lover of sort of the outdoors, seeing the way some people do treat it. But I do try and remind myself that it is the minority, and there are many people still doing good, and those who have been out sort of doing charitable litter picks and stuff and heading out there in their own time to sort these bits out. That hopefully the good message is still being shown, and it will still come through. But it's not been the nicest thing to have seen. But
no. What's some of the furthest walks you've done then since you've started doing this?
So I've not done any sort of huge multi-day things really as yet. I mean, I've been getting quite inspired by a few people recently who've been doing a lot of the Pennine Ways, coast to coast, Cape Raft Trail in Scotland and stuff. Who've been doing the big multi-day hikes that just look fantastic.
3 peaks.
Well, the 3 peaks,
that's a big one.
Yeah, so I mean that's obviously 24-hour generally challenge, isn't it? Sort of thing, but or the Yorkshire one, but some of these Cape Raft ones can be like 20 days sort of out there, walking along, camping away. So.
That's when you really need a meal halfway up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then again, I'm not sure how much fresh food you could carry the whole way, unless you have stop-off points. I mean,
that's true.
You carry some fresh thing for 20 days. It's not going to be very fresh by the end, is it? But I don't know. I mean, I've done a couple of ones, I guess, where heading up sort of the Helvellyn range and stopping halfway through and walking all the way back down. So maybe from Fellcrail back to Ambleside sort of stuff. So areas like that. Nothing huge. I had a trip out to Australia about 2 years ago. Where I went out and sort of camped in the mountains there. Cool. Kosciuszko Mountains, and that was cracking, sort of walking up there. Got them on the most spectacular sunsets I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Which
I had
part
the place
of Australia
to myself. So it's Western Australia.
Okay, yeah.
So the Kosciuszko National Park, so it's got the highest mountain in Australia in it, which is about 2,200. And I walked up there one day, just me and my tent, and never seen so many spiders in my life.
I was going to say the wildlife's a bit freaky out there.
Yeah, and I was walking in the dark up there. I think I'd not got quite to the right pitch point. I missed a little turn off in the bit because it was all quite bushy, and I was trekking through this bush in my shorts, thinking there could be anything under here.
Oh dear.
Step on an old sleeping snake or whatever. And every time I shone my head torch around, there was just like thousands of little
See something moving.
sort of globules in the grass just lighting back at you. You knew each one was a spider, and it was like, no, keep moving.
Yeah.
So I was pretty glad to get in my tent that night and make sure
Get it zipped
all
up.
zipped to the top. Yeah, but spectacular. Camped up there, and I was the only person in there. And unlike the Lake District, which is teeming this sort of time of year, that was the summer in Australia, and there I was on the highest mountain, most famous mountain in Australia, other than Ayers Rock, I suppose. And not another soul there, just me. It was amazing.
That's cool.
I had a fantastic experience, and again, it's something that I'll do again, hopefully in another country.
It's been hot though.
It was, yeah. I didn't even put the outer on the tent. I just had the inner, just the mesh. Just kept the bugs out, basically. As I wanted to keep them out because there's plenty of them.
Yeah. Well, I've been in Australia. And it's like every town you go into has a poster saying what you need to watch out for.
Yeah.
Everyone's completely different. You're like, oh my god.
It was a fantastic experience out there.
Sometimes it's like an alligator or a crocodile. Like, oh wow. Or down to like checking the back of your toilet before you sit down.
Yeah. Again, things you're just not used to. We just wouldn't grow up with. So
no, we have like the adder.
Yeah, no.
Have you seen much wildlife then up there?
I've seen a couple of adders out in the hills before. I've seen one in the Pennines and one up in the Langdales. I've seen an adder before. All sorts of bits, badgers, stoats, otters, stuff like that you see out and about.
I've still never seen a badger. I've seen a flat dead ones, but I've never seen a live one.
Yeah, well, that's often the way, isn't it? You don't really see them much, but I mean, you'll see a lot around Rydal if you go down sort of dusk to night time. There's a lot around there. And they've even got sort of the webcams at Badger Bar. Haven't they? You can watch them there and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've even had them up on where I live in Ambleside. They've been trekking up, trying to raid the bins. And sort of
Very domesticated these days.
They're getting there.
Give me some chips.
As domesticated as you can be, for a badger. But they they do get about.
Well, like in America, in like LA, they have like mountain lions.
I thought you were going to say more like raccoons, but
mountain lions.
You've jumped straight to the big ones.
Yeah.
Cougars.
Yeah. That for real, like they're coming down into the cities.
Yeah. My dad had that once. He's got a mate of his in San Diego. He was in the RAF, and he went out to visit his friend out there, and he lives in that area. And he was his mate was doing some work one night, and he said, "Oh, I'll just meet you down in the pub." He says, "Well, how are you getting there?" He says, "I'll just walk down." He says, "No, you can't walk down. It's a mile or two." He goes, "Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll just walk down." He says, "No, you can't walk by yourself. There's cougars." And they thought, you're having a laugh, again.
Coming from I like older women, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the one. Maybe so. Well, yeah, he's getting on a bit. But it's, I'm not sure they're still classed when you're the same age as them. I think it's a cougar, but it's... And, but just you wouldn't even comprehend that sort of thing, the fact that, you can't walk down by yourself at night because you'll
Don't take your child might get eaten.
Yeah. And imagine that here, what would it be? It'd be like the killer rabbits from Monty Python, wouldn't it? They might get you, but that'd be about it.
That's why we're lucky, though, because we don't have anything like that up here.
Maybe.
The worst you get is like midges.
Well, they're pretty bad this year.
Eaten alive.
They are bad. I think they've come down from Scotland on a holiday. I was hoping the great midgie famine of last year would have killed them off. The fact that no humans were out playing outside last year, they'd have all
back with a vengeance
disappeared. But they've been hiding out, I think. So yeah, they're mean little buggers, aren't they? With
so what have you got?
Teeth.
What have you got? Have you got anything much planned in the short term coming up? Any events or particular walks that you plan on doing?
Walks I tend to just, I'll see, I've got quite a few of the Ullswater Fells still to do, the eastern side, and I've still got quite a few up at Cockermouth Way, which are generally the ones furthest away from where I live. All the rest are.
What do you do? Do you literally plan out what walks you're going to do, or you just wake up one day and go, I think I'll do this today?
Yeah, I'm a bit sort of more laissez-faire, I think, I'll just sort of go with the flow a bit, me, really. I'm not too an organised chap, but... some bits, obviously, I am aiming to finish some of these ones in particular places, so you have to organise them to a degree, but... Other than that, I've got plenty of little festivals coming up this sort of next few weekends. So I think looking at my diary into sort of late July, August, September, it's just packed up. I'm here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
We've got things obviously. The outdoor festival started now. We had a few already that have been about, but heading down to sort of Stourbridge later in the year for one. I've got one at Keswick, Kendal, which is a bit closer to home. One down sort of Snowdonia way. And again, I've got a couple of personal bits as well, some sort of friends and stuff who are getting married now. Things have come back to normal. They've booked in. So, busy period ahead with various bits, but some nice appearances somewhere. So, and again, where they lead to, we only know. It'll be nice to meet some other people, nice to cook some food. And
so do you more sort of say, this is where I've been, rather than this is where I'm going? Because you didn't want too many people to sort of intercept you.
Not so much that way. I wouldn't go as far as that, or sort of self-indulgent side for me just yet. But it's, I don't know. A lot of the time, I just don't know myself, to be honest. I just take one day at a time, as I have done with again my journey And it's a good mantra in sort of the sober world as well. Sort of one day at a time. You know, if you can stay sober today, then
Yeah.
You
Do
know,
you have some
that'll
people
keep
help
going.
you, like photographers or video people help you do bits and bobs?
I've got a few friends I've made again through the sort of community. Yeah, so some close mates, sort of Dan Toll in Kendal and Kenny Block over in the West Coast, who are really talented photographers. So they come out. So again, mainly friends at first, but again, it's quite a nice arrangement
Yeah.
we've got where they get fed well and I get some nice photos.
Well, that's
so
it,
it
yeah,
works
yeah.
out quite well. But it's some bits, and I've come across some very talented people in the community during the sort of time I've had. Some of them have been put forward to you by the brands or by, again, some of these appearances they're already booked on to be shooting the festival, for example, like some of the chaps that did Kendal Mountain Festival last year. But again, I think it's just these people are just all outdoor lovers too. So
Yeah.
it's just being open to that and meeting these new folk. And I'm sure I meet one of the festivals I've got later in the year, I'm actually doing, I think, 6 workshops. So it's like 10 people at a time who are all cooking along with me at the same time. So we've got the same ingredients. So it's all
Alright.
going to be a bit of a,
Cook off.
well, not cook off as such, yeah, but like sort of a guiding through, I guess, sort of thing. So again, that'd be quite interesting, sort of watching all that sort of go through and being sort of quite close quartered and sort of,
Yeah.
you know, that one-on-one sort of teaching aspect. So that should be quite nice as well. But again, yeah, we're just all there for the same reason, aren't we? We just love the same thing. So just like getting out into nature, and you know, it's all about how we do it in our own different ways. Whether or not some are more experienced in the walking side of things,
Yeah.
or perhaps me going, well, rather than taking your porridge pack out, why not take a full-on meal to feed yourself at night? But you cannot convince all of them. But I'll give it a go.
No. So you're gonna cook something for us in a bit? Is that right?
I've got some bits in, yeah. We've got some little, should do
Nice.
some sort of chicken fajitas I'm going to do for you, I think. So there's some little
Oh,
bits,
look at Tech's face.
He's all right, is he? He's liking that.
Get
That's good,
in. Chicken. Buzzword.
That's a buzzword.
It's a
There we
buzzword.
go.
Brilliant. And
Awesome.
the weather's brilliant outside.
It's
so.
gorgeous today, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. So hopefully we can
Well
get that
done.
cooked out, overlooking some. Should get some nice view of the mountains from here as well. Still back into the
Yeah,
Lake
yeah.
Districts.
Yeah.
And so they should be tasty. So we've got the camp stove, we've got the kit, and we'll go get that
Cool.
prepped up and cooked up.
It's been great talking to you, man.
And
Really
you, sir.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks so
So
much for having me.
is your handle just Fell Foodie on everything?
That's right. Yeah. Fell Foodie across the online universe. Yeah.
Good.
so
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Thank you.
So yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with that, they can do it that way. Do you have an email?
It'll be on there. So I mean, again, you can
Yeah.
just put in the DMs and sort of on the social media, or the digital email website, fellfoodie.co.uk as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at your
anybody-
website. Your website's pretty cool.
Thank you. Anyone who reaches out, yeah, obviously I always try and get back in touch. So I'm just sharing the adventures, the recipes, and my sort of mental health story
Yeah.
across those platforms. So
Keep on doing it.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
All right.